Welcome, everybody, to the Omnic Lab. I'm your host, Rob May, from the land of the rising sun in the evening time, and you're about to listen to the podcast about Overwatch, but focuses on the game in a little bit more of a strategic way, where we break things down, learn through trial and error in a scientific method through a lab-type setting, and help you get some team comp strategies, maybe some tips and tricks on hero guides. But this week, we are going to be talking through a lot of different topics regarding individual heroes and kind of a layman's guide of intermediate and semi-basic tips and tricks that we've covered on the entire roster up until this point, and some of the things that we picked up on the way, as well as we'd like to break down a strategic show match between Giganti and Misfits in the EU finals of season 1 of Overwatch Contenders, as well as Andres has watched all of the other maps. I wasn't quite able to finish the last couple matches of the Envy versus
FaZe.
Who'd they play, Andres?
FaZe Clan.
FaZe Clan, that's right. So we'll be breaking those down and talk about a little bit of the strategies and some of the things we picked up there, and not necessarily what happened, but rather the strategic impacts of how the game results happen. But as you've already heard his glorious morning voice, we have Andres Gomez coming in from Georgia. What's up, Andres?
What's up, Rob? Yeah, today we have an exciting episode. We'll be discussing all of the finals that happened in Contenders at the new Blizzard Arena. Pretty exciting stuff. I had a really good time watching all of it. And also, we've compiled a huge list of tips and tricks that we've gathered through all of our going deeps, all of the guests we've had on the show, or personal experience playing the game. We've had episodes that have been dedicated to kind of individual heroes and stuff, but there's so much information that we just wanted to compile like a nice little guide of like quick fire little tips and tricks for all of the heroes that some of you might already know these, but I bet that there's a little bit for everyone, whether you're just starting out the game, you're intermediate, or you're a little bit advanced. You never know. It might be something here for you. So that's what we got going today.
Yeah, and we're also going to have a semi-shortened discussion instead of just a broad, like, tip of the hat to our official sponsor in the news section, our official partner, the Omnic Meta, home of Switch Fox, one of our admin. But he has 2 different articles. We're going to talk about one of them today, which is the top hero mains for Season 6. And the other one is that he has a brand new console meta report for October 3rd, if you guys want to check that out. It doesn't look like there is any sizable discussion points that we'd want to cover within the meta report besides the increase across the upper tiers of Mercy's play and the large increase in bronze of Junkrat and Hanzo on console, which is something a little crazy, I might add. But yeah, basically just a big spike in Mercy use on console across the board, and the player use is just insane, and rightfully so. So let's talk about the top 10 hero mains for Season 6. And what we got here, Andres, is he broke it down for top 10 hero mains for PC. It looks like that's the main focus, so this will not be covering console. So it is exclusive. And across the board, the number 1 hero main is Mercy in every tier.
Across all tiers.
Now, this data is pulled for Season 6 after the 1.14 Junkrat Roadhog patch. So this is when Junkrat got the second bomb in his mine. His mine got a second charge, and Roadhog got the take a breather adjustment and reduce damage, and he can do it while healing. Or he can heal while moving. So this is also pre and post Mercy changes, if you guys are keeping track here. So it looks like it's not surprising her popularity grew even more since Season 5. And it said 22 to 32% of all players who have a main chose Mercy.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And it's interesting what happens in the latter, though, because Mercy has been really popular. She was popular before her changes, and now really popular after the changes. But the truth is, I think it might level off. Like you said, this is right after the patch. or right pre the patch where she got buffed. So like we have a lot of data that is just like a lot of people trying out her new kit, all this new stuff. But honestly, if you were watching Contenders this weekend, I think that the tournament scene is not going as crazy over Mercy. I think that Lucio and Sen still have a place. We even saw a lot of Ana play from a few players in Contenders, even in the finals. And even though Mercy did appear, I think that it was an even distribution across the the supports and the tournament scene. Now, in the latter scene, I do think that people are really embracing her and really going to town on Mercy. Just like every game, you see a Mercy just flying around, doing all sorts of crazy things. It remains to see if it's gonna keep being this way, though.
Yeah, for sure. The other thing that I'll note is that there's another website out there. I believe it's Winston's Lab. I think they're the ones that are doing kind of the same thing that Switch is doing, but they do it primarily for or exclusively for the scene within the Overwatch Pro circuit, as far as like frequency and win rates and hero pick rate and all that. But in the ladder setting, in particular, it is increasingly important that heroes like Mercy are a primary thing in all tiers and not just in one of them, to give you a symbol that something is becoming strong, right? Generally speaking, you're not going to be seeing, these Tracer players as a high frequency pick in, bronze, silver, or even necessarily in gold, because Tracer is and Genji too, where there's the balance of people picking something like Hanzo, Tracer, Genji, and Widowmaker because they're cool and they're interesting, and that's what you want to play, versus something that's a high skill and very frustrating to play when you keep dying.
Right.
Even if it is fun. So Mercy is one of the ones where you just feel like you stay in the fight for very long. You're super durable because of your passive. The new Valkyrie change is exciting, brings lots more of the players back in to increase the frequency further. And Mercy is just an easy entrance level like hero to pick up and understand. And so in order to be powerful, it doesn't take that much of an effort, especially with the new changes. Now it's a little bit more dynamic at the top scene. You can really abuse a lot of this.
I agree. She's a welcoming hero. She's a hero that, like you said, if you're just starting out the game, she feels approachable. Like you don't need to be super out there with your aim and all stuff like that. You're still contributing a lot to your team just by like staying with them, healing, and doing your thing. But like you said, now she has a big skill ceiling with her Valkyrie and all the stuff that she can do. And more than that, I think that what makes her a great ladder hero is that when you're going into ladder in competitive mode, you're usually just going by yourself with one or two people. Rarely you're going with a full team of 6 or 5. And even if you go with a team of 6, it's usually not teams that you've been playing for like years or anything. It might just be like your friends get together that night and then you're playing. And I think that in this setting, abilities like Resurrect, where getting that one pick initially is so important, right? When your entire team is not coordinating this huge strategies and stuff, things like a Widowmaker getting a pick or Roadhog getting a hook and getting rid of somebody at the beginning of the fight, those are usually kind of like the pivoting points in the fights. And that's kind of like what people use to kind of orient themselves and know when they should get aggressive, when they shouldn't. And Mercy is great at countering those moments. And you don't need like a full team coordination and stuff. Just like their enemy Widowmaker got a pick, your Mercy rests the person, nothing happened. We're still good, guys. It's all good. Fight continues. And I think once it gets more organized, once teams are not relying on those kind of like single picks to tilt the balance of the battle, but they're more of we're just committing to full fights, very coordinated and all that stuff, her value does diminish a little bit. What do you think about that?
I mean, from what I was talking with a couple top, the guy that we're going to be having on next week for our Zenyatta episode, has been talking. He said that the game is becoming really, really difficult to play and main a Zenyatta pick when your team doesn't pick up a Mercy. He's like, if you guys don't have a team player on your team that wants to play Mercy or even mains Mercy, then you basically are underperforming in a ladder setting because it's so powerful. And it's just the constant reset, like, oh, you're out of position, here you go. Or let's play until the tank dies and then the tank gets rezzed and you can run a single tank and that's just your primary target. And if you look at all the win rates, like here with Switch says that the win rate for Mercy mains in particular is a 4% higher. Now I can guarantee you that I'm not in that bracket because every time I end up picking Mercy, it's because I'm in a situation where I'm in like solo healing on Zen and we're losing and I pick something. And it's just like I usually end up playing Mercy in losing situations. And then when I'm able to play Zen, we generally can win. I even solo healed a Zenyatta game on Route 66 where my entire team just straight fragged and we ran Zen, what was it? Zen, Tracer, Genji, Winston, Soldier 76, and Widowmaker, and it was gross. And it was yeah. Anyways, it was a crazy fun game. But like to get back to the point here, the top 10 hero mains, I have to transition out of the discussion just because we have lots of ground to cover. But the other heroes that are up there are. I'm going to be paying attention more with Platinum and up just because I feel like that's something maybe interesting to more of the people is just seeing what the people up the tiers are doing. And number 2 across the board is Lucio, which is no surprise because, again, he's another hero extremely dynamic to play, extremely fun to play. In almost every circumstance, there's a good excuse to have a Lucio. And the next one would then be kind of averaged out would be either... It's kind of a mismatch between Lucio and D.Va. And this is before and after the D.Va changes where D.Va is still powerful in both situations and Junkrat just got the buff. And at the bottom, the reason I'm bringing this up is that Junkrat has been yielding for hero maining on that hero that they are observing win rates 2 to 10% higher than the tier average of the tier average win rate, which is pretty telling, especially for people that are maining. Even Winston is also in bronze tier. If you play Winston, it looks like you win games because you're almost 10% win rate higher average if you're maining Winston. So if you're really trying to get out of bronze, that looks like the hero to pick right now.
Yeah, Winston seems to be doing pretty good, especially at the top end of the level. And yeah, not to dilly-dally too much in the hero report. If you guys want to watch the entire report and watch the little charts, he has some really awesome visuals that you can see everything really clearly, and a couple later articles that you can read. You can go to omnicmeta.com. But like you said, notable mentions: Mercy up top. We see a lot of D.Va, especially at the lower ranks. It starts declining a little bit as you get into Master and Grandmaster, but still up there. Junkrat has become extremely popular in the lower ranks, and it's also getting a lot of play in Diamond Master and Grandmaster, although it does decay a little bit over there. Zarya has been doing quite good at the higher ranks, and same with Winston. Winston at the higher ranks is number 3 after Lucio. So Lucio, Mercy, and Winston seem to be doing the best across Master and Grandmaster. But yeah, interesting.
Zenyatta's way up there in Platinum too, so I know that I'm definitely in there in that bracket. Also, I should have said this at the very beginning, but something that it declares you as a main means that you are playing a hero more than 50% of your total game time in that season. That's how he's defining a main. So I think without further ado, Andres, we can keep going with our news section. We have the Halloween Terror event is coming. And by the time you're listening to this past the live show, you should be getting this in your feed after the event has launched. There's been a couple leaked skins for Zenyatta, Cthulhu skin. There's a Symmetra Devil skin and a very cool cultural like zombie mixture of a vampire thing that I was talking with Yan in Chinese culture for May. That skin looks really cool. But anyways, there's going to be the whole roster. Everything's going to be released on the 10th, and enjoy that new thing. We'll be talking about it with our Zenyatta guest next week. As we continue down, Andres and I wanted to deviate a little bit off of the beaten path and talk about Overwatch Contenders Finals. And it would be remiss if we didn't let you know that this is a spoiler moment. So if you haven't watched it, it's been a couple days. Everything's kind of out and about. So if you want to skip this part, I would definitely go down about 20 minutes or so, and then we probably would be covered at this. But Andres, why don't you talk about what you thought of the NA games within Envy and FaZe Clan?
Yeah, let's start with that. First of all, the new Blizzard Arena looks sick. It looks so
It
cool.
does.
Yeah, I was so jealous that I couldn't be there. It's all the way in LA. I'm all the way on the East Coast, so kind of far. But hopefully I can make it over there one day because yeah, it looks super cool. It's a smaller arena than I initially thought it would be, but still, like all of the facilities look super good. Like the little gift shop with all the Pachimaris and all like the little stuff looks super awesome. Did you get a chance to look at all the pictures and the videos?
I did not. I've been prepping a lot for this one.
I've been watching them on Twitter because everyone has been posting them. That's been like over there and stuff. So I've been entertained by that. But yeah, on to the finals. Super exciting stuff. On the NA side, it was a little bit more one-sided. I got to watch all of the matches, and Envious had a field day with FaZe Clan. FaZe Clan still had their moments, and they still held their ground a few times, but you could definitely tell Envious was the dominant team, and they were just super, super solid overall the entire tournament. Their strategy was super flexible, and one of the highlight things that I should mention is that it's the first team that I have seen do subs in the middle of the match. Kind of like you would do in a sports team, you'd get out a player, bring out another one.
In the first two games.
Yeah, Seagull surprisingly was subbing for them, and Mickey and him were interchanging spots throughout the games. Whenever they needed a little more offensive firepower, they would sub in Seagull, which surprisingly ended up playing Junkrat and Pharah, not your regular Genji that you would expect. And then they would sub in Mickey when they needed Diva or Zarya or that flex kind of tank spot, which I thought was a really cool strategy, and it worked out for them quite well. Let's get into the games.
They just ran a solo Winston.
Yeah, a lot of the times they ran a solo Winston. Sometimes they would run with a Diva when they sub in Mickey. But for the first game was in Ilios, and they had Seagull, Taimu, and Effect on DPS. The rest, they played with a Winston, a Lucio, and a Zenyatta. No, I mean a Mercy. I'm sorry, because their strategy. The first point strategy was a 3 DPS. They had Seagull on Pharah, they had Taimu on a McCree, and they had Effect on a Tracer. And honestly, it was just like destruction. Like these three dudes are so good at their heroes that FaZe had such a hard time shutting them down. Like even if they were able to shut down two of them, the third one would come in and just like clutch it out, get like 3 kills, and it was just too much to stop. You had Seagull on the Pharah with a Mercy up top, just raining chaos. Then you had Taimu with his he has incredible aim on that McCree, and it was just like nonstop shooting in the back. And then you had Effect on Tracer, just like moving like crazy. This guy is like, yeah, this guy is like getting to a really good level too, like Sinatra-ish level of good on that Tracer.
Like I see even some of the people talking, like Dano's mentioning Seagull's kind of in the chat right now. And I would agree that the results of what Seagull is doing is not necessarily going to be seen on the kill feed or maybe in flashy plays. But in my opinion, like what Seagull was operating on was basically zoning the enemy team into a funnel. Right, he basically is shutting down areas of the map as a projectile, high damage character that's getting the damage boost from Mercy, so that they have to go in certain routes. And then once they enter that, a stray rocket that's damage boost to hitting anything basically is just letting Effect turn into the cleanup crew. Like he's basically this is DPS janitor at that point. Like they're dead.
Yeah,
as far as you're concerned.
Honestly, so a lot of the time they're just trying to buy Effect time. I think that yes, it's like what you said. Seagull is playing heroes that force the enemy team to have to pay attention to him, and that's kind of like what they want. Like at that point, Effect is free to just get in there and do some chaos in the back line. He would like get that Zenyatta or the pulse bomb
and it frees
so
up
fast.
Taimu as well.
Yeah, it frees up Taimu as well. Yeah, absolutely. And it worked out really well on the control maps, right?
Ilios.
Ilios, yeah. On the Ilios maps, the 3D PS lineup worked really well. Highlight though to Shadowburn, because I have never seen
Oh my gosh,
Genji kill Mercies in the air like so much as this guy. Like
Sick.
like when you think of pharmacy, you think of like, okay, we need a McCree or we need like a soldier or something to counter. No. Just in Shadowburn, like somehow
couple shurikens and a dash is all you need.
Somehow he does it. He just gets up in the air and like kills that Mercy. He killed that Mercy probably like 3 times consistently in that Ilios match. Yeah, but moving on, the second match in Hollywood, they sub out Siegel. They put back in Mickey on the Diva.
This is the clinic, let me tell you.
Yeah, at this point, they could definitely tell that Envious was a little better in this map. Just like total domination. They were able to full hold on point 2. Taimu pulled out the Widowmaker and like went to town on these guys. They just could not get that payload to the last point of point 2. And also highlight to the way they started the game. Envious on their attack, they went Hanzo and Sombra. And right at the start of the game, the Hanzo was able to get a pick. But as soon as he got the pick, he got killed. And instead of just respawning and coming back, he immediately switches to a Soldier 76. And the fight's still going and raging on. And like, it was such a good choice. Like, he immediately was able to sprint back into the fight and bring back the consistent damage of Soldier 76 rather than Hanzo. Like, honestly, they just wanted to open up the fight with that Hanzo. And as soon as he saw that he did his job, he got his pick and he died, he was like, there's no more need for Hanzo. We need some consistent damage. We need to keep up the pressure at this point. And sure enough, as soon as he switched to the Soldier 76, FaZe kind of tried to hold it for a little bit, but just the pressure was too good. And they were able to get that point like almost right away. And I was super surprised too. Like the Sombra also clutched it out, opening up a lot of space for them to get in there. But it was a really cool strategy. Envious overall, the entire game was so flexible with their strategy, so willing to switch even their players out. I thought it was such a cool thing.
Yeah, there's also a couple moments that you're going to see where highlights on the other end. I mean, we're going to basically be harping a lot in this series that Envy is, basically just taking it to him. But there are, like we said, with Shadowburn especially, but there's also a couple moments where Fact Fiction is just in the right place at the right time, zoning people completely off and zip-zapping that Zenyatta so that they can't do anything. So, like, there's a few times that I've seen Fact Fiction have some really big highlights of good Winston play, and also their Lucio player just on both sides gets these double kill frag or spacing, like with the shotgun blast with a couple things in a melee. Like, it's unbelievable how fast these top level Lucio players can just bring it to somebody because of the speed boost. They basically are the ones in the pilot seat when you're going to be able to get the speed and when you're going to be able to get the healing. And so it's really, really cool to see top level Lucio play like that.
Yeah, their Lucios are almost like a secondary DPS too. Like, even though they're like supporting and stuff, like they get in there and they do so much damage with their little gooey balls and stuff. But like, I don't know, they're all top tier. Let's move on to the third map, Anubis. I think in Anubis, it was finally when FaZe kind of started to come together. I don't know if they were a little nervous in the first few maps or something, but finally, third map, Anubis. FaZe goes off. It's a very contested map. They keep Mickey on Envious. They don't sub in Seagull. They go very defensive. And in this time, Taimo switched to a Junkrat. And Effect switched to a Soldier, which I thought was an interesting choice. They went a lot more defensive. And that Junkrat, I think, was all about countering that dive. Like, at this point, FaZe was going full dive with Shadowborn just being like, you know what? Leave me on my Genji. I'm going to go to town on this, guys. But the Junkrat was great at that, like, disruption. And like the chat was mentioning, Effect had such a clutch hold on the second point. He's bought so much time for their team. And this actually happened several times with Envious in Anubis and in the next map. once FaZe was able to bring the pressure and was able to finally get NVS in like a really defensive position, you can really tell their discipline to be able to stall the maps and play for the objective rather than just playing, for kills or anything like that. Because they're so disciplined at waiting for the right moments, then coming in, stalling the point, maybe getting out, and then one of the other guys comes in, stalls the point, and kind of like rotate like that, rather than all going in at the same time. Like they just send one guy at a time until they're all able to get an advantage and come back all in. Or they all lose the fight at the same time. But it's just like, I don't know, it was like a really good defensive discipline. And definitely you could tell MVS was able to pull out the advantage in this one because of that. And again, showing flexibility, putting Taimu on the Junkrat and switching effect to Soldier when needed, getting him off the Tracer. Really good stuff. And then my final and
last
favorite map, Route 66. What a clutch map. This one was the most back and forth. FaZe was able to get it to the endpoint first, even though they had a really hard time on the first point of Route 66. Envious just has a mega solid defense on that first point of Route 66. Like, don't mess with those guys. They will not let that point go. They almost lost in overtime, but were finally able to get through Envious on that first point. And after that, they actually had an easier time taking it to the last point. On the second round, it was kind of like the other way around. Envious had a very easy time breaking that first point, but had a really hard time breaking that second point. I think that Shadowburn finally found his groove in that map, and it was just going to town on effect. Like, Shadowburn is another one to like mention here. This guy is not afraid of effect. He's not afraid of anyone in that team. Several times he would just wait around the corner, knowing that effect would try to flank through that route. And like, it was like the swiftest thing. The second effect would poke his head, he would throw 3 shurikens at Tracer's head and then dash through. And it would just like, in like 1 second, that Tracer was deleted. And it happened like twice or 3 times in this game, where poor effect was just going around the corner trying to gank their Zenyatta and stuff. And Shadowburn was like, you're not going anywhere, bro. But yeah, oh, by the way, they subbed in back Seagull in this one. They went for the firepower. And another notable mention was Taimu switched to a Roadhog and stayed in the Roadhog, even though he was getting a little bit trained, like Shadowburn and I think it was what's his name? The Phases Tracer. Why am I blanking out on this? Man, chat, help me out over here.
I'm looking it up right now.
He is so known. I feel bad for forgetting his name. Carpe.
Yeah, Carpe.
Yes.
The Korean legend. He's the one who played the Hanzo for the pick.
Yeah. He is also really, really good. But both of them were really going to town on the Roadhog on poor Taimu's. But he stuck into it. And I think it worked out because they were able to tie both rounds and went on to a third round. And once they were in the third round, Envious was like, all right, guys, we got them used to the Roadhog. Let's change it up. Let's bring out Bastion. And they went for the Protect the President strategy. And it worked out so well. They took that first point, no contest, and they were almost able to take it all the way to the end of point B on Route 66. And that was just like incredible. Like Shadowburn, poor guy, he couldn't do anything on that last second round. And once it was time for MVS to defend, their defense on that point 1 is just so good. And like, pay attention to like that last defense. At the last point, they know that FaZe is gonna do the last push, so they send their MVS sends their Sombra, and she does the EMP before they can engage. Then they engage first, and even though they get the advantage, they get a bunch of picks from it. They have such discipline that after they got killed, a few of their players got killed, and all of them were like, retreat immediately, even though they were still winning the fight. Like, there was such a like a disciplined moment because they were still winning the fight, but they lost a couple in numbers, and they were like, "We're not gonna risk this." Everybody retreated, and once it was finally a full team in Envious, they re-engaged and won the fight like decisively. And at that point, it was a full hold. But it takes so much
They
discipline.
also held a lot of ultimates.
Yeah, they held a lot of ultimates too. And it took so much discipline for them to be able to like, we're not gonna keep this fight going on. It was overtime. They were like 2 down. The enemy team was like 3 down, but they knew that the enemy team was close to their spawn and they were taking no choices. They decided to take the fight closer to the point where they had the advantage. And it worked out really well. Like textbook play right there. Like Envious, just such a great team.
Well, I don't have much more to say that because I was watching the first two and I didn't get a chance to catch these last two matches that Andres is describing, but I did watch in depth a lot of the Gigante versus Misfits. And let me tell you, when I spent this extended period of time watching Gigante and Misfits, it's nothing against these squads, but it's like you watch these games and you're super hyped, and then you take a quick break and you sit down and you watch Envy. It's like an entirely different realm of Overwatch. It's like you're playing in Masters and you think you're pretty good at the game, and then you go up against a couple top 500 teams and you're just like, this is a whole nother planet level of skill. Like, and I'm not saying that's the disparity, because there are some definitely highlights here and there, but it felt more like what you would anticipate when FaZe Clan goes up against them, where they're getting 4-0'd, they have a lot more discipline, a lot more control, they have understanding of the matchups and like what they need to do. So I wanted to make sure I prefaced the EU games by that. But let's start with game one. So game one was Oasis, and the squad, I tried to basically take not every game, but maybe just a couple of the games that I really liked, a few key moments and maybe some strategic points. So especially in round one, the university map was chosen. This is like the library, the inside is a little bit tighter. Both teams actually showed a Junkrat. And so this is very interesting. So Misfits has got Tavik, and he's on the Junkrat and on the high ground. Now, this is the very last part of the map. So Misfits is actually up 4 ultimates. They have both of their support ults. They've got a DPS ult, and they have a Diva Bomb, I believe. And they are in a excellent position to win this game. They're at 83% about the time when the enemy team's about to come in, and the enemy team has 99% for Gigante. So Gigante's just about to jump in. They're also running Zarya and a Reinhardt on Gigante, and Misfits is running a Winston Diva. So the key is in the supports, or in the tanks, because the supports and the DPS are the same. Tracer, Zenyatta, Lucio, and Junkrat. So when Junkrat is here, he basically sets his trap in his mind on the staircase and is facing out from the 2 high ground pillars where you can actually peek onto the point. So he's in the aggressive position where he can start lobbing grenades in. The problem is he's not really sticking there to the point that he's safe, because what happens is the Zarya spots him at the same time as Zenyatta has a barrage up, and what happens is you see this giant bomb coming in from Zarya, and that times the same time as a full barrage from Zenyatta and deletes Tavik. And as soon as that happens, they engage. They drop one of their ultimates, and then you hear the Zenyatta ult go out. But as soon as Zenyatta's ult is popped, the enemy Zenyatta dies, and so it's a 5v5. No Junkrat for Misfits and no Zenyatta for Gigante. But Gigante doesn't care. They wait until the full duration. They stay safe, and then they drop a insane Zarya Graviton and win the fight and basically steal the entire map of Oasis University because of the one spot where Tavik was not necessarily safe. So when you're spamming grenades, be warned, Zarya is going to get a lot more charge, and you got to make sure you're not peeking, because Tavik was so far separate from his team that he could have been in a better position there. And I'm not one to critique, but this is just the one thing that I'm kind of echoing a little bit more from the casters. That's the key moment of the match.
Yeah, and noted that this match compared to the MVS was a very back and forth, like you said. It was like anyone's game almost in every map. And it was like close right up until the end.
It's very odd too, because there's a running theme, like even though the games statistically and watching the stats of how far the payload moves or how much percent you're getting on the control map, or insert whatever happens on control point. But the games, even though they reflect that back and forth, I would even argue to say that Giganti giving the enemy team a little bit more ground isn't always as obvious. Like sometimes you get the moments where you have games where it's just these huge differentials in ability, with Envy just like full holding and not giving them any ground. But then when teams are typically closer in overall ability, the stronger teams are the ones that are just generally more disciplined with each point, rather than how far things go, if that makes sense. So Giganti is just more disciplined, even though the maps look close. I feel like Giganti showed up and they are definitively in control, and you kind of get that feel the longer you watch the map, is Giganti is just kind of there. They're playing their game. It always felt like Misfits is kind of playing from the back foot, unless they're playing on Eichenwald. And it was just like, if they're not playing on Eichenwald, Misfits really didn't feel like they had much control over Giganti and what was going on. So let's go to Anubis. So game number 3. So we're skipping the Eichenwald game because I wanted to highlight the third Eichenwald game, or game 4, which is another Eichenwald map. But Giganti's Lynxer, oh my gosh. Lynxer is just like almost the same as watching Shadowburn. Like he gets these crazy picks on Tavik. He just sees Tavik in the back lobbing grenades, gets a triple headshot, and then just dashes on him and kills him. And this is like makes a fight immediately, and then uses his dash to jump backwards as the enemy team Misfits is poising their really well-controlled Sombra into an EMP. And so Sombra comes in, gets ready to EMP, but what happens is after getting a pick, Zupa just comes face-to-face with Giganti's Lynxer and basically translocates out of the fight, getting ready to go in EMP. And so basically all Lynxer was waiting for was to see where he would pop out after he used Translocator, and deletes him. So this fight is 4v6. And then he just starts the 4v6 fight by going Dragon Blading on this Sombra and deleting her, and just cleaning up the entire enemy team. And what ends up happening is Fraggy on Winston for basically just deletes Logic's Tracer, and Logic is the Tracer for Misfits. And man, there's just lots of good team play, and I just had to highlight this moment because Shaz is playing Reaper, and he plays Ana and Lucio as a flex pick, and also plays Sombra when they need to. So this guy is insane. He picks like anything and everything and can play them really, really well. So Shaz is kind of like the cleanup crew after this whole institution of deleting targets and staggering picks. They start trying to, stall the point, and all Shaz does is hit Q on Death Blossom and make sure nobody gets on the point, and they win the match.
And honestly,
so they're up 3-0.
We didn't see much Reaper in that second fight, except for like these teams. These teams brought a little bit of Reaper, but on Envious and on FaZe side, we saw almost no Reaper usage. And at this point, I think it's more of the style of the players. I think it's more of a like these players just being so good at some of the other characters, rather than like Reaper not being able to keep up, because we saw these guys do great with Reaper. Just different style of play, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. The Reaper was definitely an odd pick for me personally, because I felt like in most cases they were just like, when does Reaper get his ultimate? When does Reaper get his ultimate? And then something happens, right? But in most of the cases when they're running the Reaper, they're running a solo support with the Sombra, and that's typically what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is when they get into the Eichenwald match for round 2, when Misfits is defending, they had an unbelievable 0.3 hold against Gigante where they zoned with a Diva Bomb, and then Tavik gets these crazy double trap on trapping Zarya and killing her, and then basically the next trap that's down catches Doomfist off guard and kills him. And Davin's Tracer on Gigante was like the only thing that's surviving and had to engage, but was forced to fight in the final fight 5v6 and just couldn't do it. And so Misfits goes and ties up the series here in game number 4 at 2-2. And what ends up happening is you get another game where both teams win one, and you go to the final map in Ilios. And this, if you watch any of the Gigante Misfits, you got to watch Game 7. This game is nuts. Linkser and Davin go full DPS carry and steal the absolute end of the game in map number 1 on the well. Linkser has 2 different times in this one map where he has deflected a rocket at a mid-air Pharah and killed her.
I saw that happen a couple of times this tournament. They like killing Pharahs like that.
It's so sick. Like, he climbs the wall above the health pack room, does a right-click alternate fire of the 3 shurikens, hits her, dashes on her, melees her, and kills her in the air, and then uses Dragon Blade. And it's just like, this is gross. Like, how do you do that? And then there's a whole nother moment where Linkser drops, and his team is fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting. They lose the point. The next team fight, they go in, and this is the end of the game. And so because Linkser goes down, their team is like really not keen on fighting their last fight, 5v6. So what happens is Gigante gets like they're in this position and they engage and they lose 2. Like immediately, they lose 2. They lose, I believe their tank goes down and one of their supports goes down. And so what happens is Linkser gets a couple triple tap shurikens on the Lucio, forcing him out of the fight. And Davin goes a full freaking carry and gets 3 picks without dying and contesting the point at the same time. Like, this dude's a freaking boss. And then Linkser cleans up with his Dragon Blade and ends the game, and they win. But man, let me tell you, as much as the play is around, it felt like if Davin and Linkser are out, the plays are happening. Like, that's just typically what happens. If Linkser is alive, that team is going to be winning that fight in most cases. And the other side of the coin was good Gandhi. Shaz is an insane flex player. Ana, Sombra, Zenyatta, Reaper in the series. A huge part was Big Goose's on Gigante, also his Lucio. He had a couple times where he double killed frags on Route 66 and just keeping his team's health in a workable place on the Tracer is also a big skill that's really tough to manage. And Fraggy on his Reinhardt, as well as giving Linkser space on his Winston, and Zappi's Diva and Zarya. His Zarya is gross, dude. He had 100 charge on that Eichenwald map like the entire game. It was just nuts to watch.
Even when he was not getting damage, he was making charge somehow.
Even when they're losing, this Zarya is like 100% the whole time. Like, I cannot see this like right now. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of our little highlight on the series and kind of like these key moments in which you can see targets going down, maybe what you're looking at strategically for the hero picks and the team compositions. There's one big thing that I will say that ZP, caster and also podcaster for Overview had mentioned repeatedly is that Tavik's team on Anubis especially does not play very well with his Widowmaker because they keep separating with the line of sight. And so they're combating this moment where Tavik is zoning him out and not getting any shots on while his team is fighting 5v6 in another alleyway when they should be fighting all together. So it's basically got to play around the sight lines of your Widowmaker. And I didn't know, Andres, if you wanted to comment on that because you have a lot more experience playing with Widows than I have.
Not so much. I agree with that. I think that we saw so many different strategies from these teams and like so much stuff that like goes under the hood that we don't see either. Like teams maybe countering Tavik's Widowmaker like that, right? Like luring the enemy team into a place where he can fight. I thought it was really interesting watching certain teams using amazing flex players like Shaz, like you mentioned, like a guy that can play a bunch of different things at a really good level, and other teams like Envy, on the other hand, using things like swapping players. Instead of having a player that can play everything, They just bring a bunch of players that are really good at certain heroes and just bring them in and out as needed for the map. I thought that was pretty cool too, which makes me even think that if later on rosters might have like 8, 10 people, one of those people might just be
Flex
like
specialist.
yeah, or even just like the Widowmaker guy. And when you need a Widowmaker, you put in that guy for that map, for example. That would be kind of interesting.
I mean, it's gonna be a Junkrat main. I mean, you just know it's gonna be like they got Seagull on it. For goodness sake, Seagull's just Junkrat Farah all day, every day.
Junkrat Farah, Seagull. It was interesting watching him on that. Yeah, just overall cool performances by everyone. I loved watching it. Blizzard Arena looks really cool. I'm excited for what's to come later.
All right, well, we've spent quite a bit of time on this, but let's get into what the topic of the show is, which is actually the hero tips and tricks. Now, some of these are going to be a lot more advanced, some of these are going to be intermediate, some of these are going to be basic. It all depends on what we could kind of compile in a succinct manner for you. Also, the Sombra one is really tough because I'm just going to turn that over to Andres because you play a lot of Sombra in the game night and made some people like, can Andres just not play Sombra anymore? But yeah, like... that was a lot of fun to see. So let's start with Doomfist. And I'll kick us off here. So Doomfist, the one thing I wrote down for Doomfist here is when you use Meteor Strike, you want to make sure that you can hit somebody or some buddies, meaning that you can try to get at least 2 in the shot, whether it be in the center or outside the center, regardless, because you're gaining 75 shields per target. So you're going to make yourself extremely durable even when you're not getting kills. And so this makes it the initiation side of this tool even better. So if you're still not trying to get yourself a pick and you're making yourself durable, or you're just trying to basically go down to half HP and then use your ultimate, that's also fully functional and helpful. It gives your team a chance to heal you up, as well as making sure that you're dealing lots of damage and bursting down an engagement. Additionally, you can use this to disengage and get on the back line and get some damage in and also make yourself a little bit durable for a few more seconds before you re-engage. Andres, what about Genji?
Cool. Let's move on to Genji. Genji is all about that burst, and you want to be able to get as much burst as you can with him. Ways that you can get this burst are, for example, using a little bit of animation cancel. When you have your sword out, things like your dash don't share cooldown, so you can sword and dash pretty much at the same time. Or at least it feels like it's at the same time. And for a huge amount of burst damage, a really good technique to do is sword dash and then sword again for almost like 200 damage. Or using things like your right click in combination with your melee can also provide things. Dashing and melee can also provide this type of burst where instead of just doing a single attack, you try to combine as many as you can in the shortest amount of time possible to make him really deadly and really effective.
And that's why you're going to be seeing a lot of the higher level Genji play when they dash and targets just get deleted. And then you're like, I can do that. I can just hit the dash button and they don't die because you're only dealing 50 damage with the dash. What happens is if you're able to dash melee, you're actually dealing 80 damage. You're getting way more burst. So basically what people are doing is they're pre-firing their dash with a couple shurikens. They're going like 1, 2, 3. And if 1 or 2 of those shurikens hit on a 150 health target and you dash melee, they're dead. Whereas if you just dashed on them, they didn't die.
Yeah, we saw Shadowburn do that on the tournament with Tracer several times. Around the corner, 3 shurikens to hit, dash, finish off with a melee if necessary. And he was in like a span of like a second. He dealt like over 200 damage to this Tracer.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool.
And I'll give you the next one too, because it's McCree.
All right, I'll take it. For McCree, a little bit of an advanced tip. You can use your Deadeye as a quick reload instead of using it for the damage portion of it. Instead of firing with your left click, you can press right click, pretty much coming out of ultimate form or ultimate state, whatever you want to call that. And you'll be able to fire again. You have the full 6 shots. This can be useful in certain situations. For example, when a Genji is in front of you and firing with your Deadeye is just too dangerous because he might deflect a bullet at you. You can also do it when you choose to Deadeye, but maybe a Tracer comes and flanks you from behind. Couple of things happen when you cancel your ultimate. Usually when you ultimate, everybody gets ready to like destroy your life. They just want to end you right there on the spot. Things like Anna's sleep dart will get fired at you. Pharah rockets, anything that can get fired at you will be fired at you. But if you Deadeye, and instead of standing there to load the ultimate, you cancel it right away and move to the side, most of the time the enemy misses all of the abilities and allows you to keep the pressure on. So even though it's not useful for every situation, sometimes you do want to use the Deadeye for what's intended. It can be great to catch the enemy off guard, and like I said, keep the pressure on, especially if your aim is good. Those bullets can sometimes be as useful as a Deadeye.
Oh, back to Genji real quick. There is also a super, super basic tip that if you're not aware of this, is you're not really playing Genji properly, is that anytime something dies that you dashed on, you get your dash back. So if Andres and I are playing, Andres playing Genji, I'm playing Zenyatta, he triple taps me and then dashes me and I'm dead, that means he can dash again. So every time you kill something with a dash, you can use it again. And that immediately doesn't necessarily mean you have to kill them with the dash. It just means you have to dash somebody that dies. And if somebody that you touch dies, then you get your reset. Moving on, let's get to Pharah. So when you're playing Pharah, if you're playing her right, you'll never have to touch the ground. Not always the best idea, but it is possible. So what happens is you can do two things. You want to do a jump and maybe even use a little bit of your rocket booster in the space bar or your holding of the jump key or jump button if you're on console. Holding down the jump button for a brief moment and then using your rocket boosters, you're going to get even more air to go higher. And then make sure you let go of the jump button so it recharges your rocket fuel, because while you're using the jump jet, you can actually charge your fuel gauge. And you want to make sure you're pumping instead of holding your jump button. So you kind of just tap it and let go, tap it and let go. That lets you do the little float down, and you can kind of go back and forth and weave in your shots.
Yeah, another little trick also with Pharah is when you're about to take off, if you jump and you aim straight down and simultaneously, like almost right after you jump, if you can do them almost at the same time, but jump first, then either use your right click rocket or your boost of the ground, it'll do like that Zarya or soldier effect when you fire at the ground. They kind of like push you off a little bit. This can give you a little more altitude before you actually press your rocket boost, giving you a little bit more air, allowing you to reach higher places, being able to be further away from the enemy, not be so close to them, and make it a little harder for you to get killed.
For sure. Let's move on. We got Reaper coming up next.
All right, for Reaper, there's a really cool one that I actually found out recently. I didn't actually know that this worked, so there you go. Learning new things. But with the teleport, you can dodge certain things. You can dodge things like D.Va's ultimate or Junkrat's tire if you time it just right. While you're teleporting, there's a brief second where your body, I guess, disappears from the map. If you're able to time this moment with the explosion of D.Va's ultimate or a Junkrat tire exploding on you, you can completely avoid the damage. And I've seen Reapers that they see a D.Va ultimate come at them, and they don't even have to teleport to like a far away place. They literally teleport right in front of themselves, but they time it in a way so that they're teleported while the explosion is happening, completely avoiding it and surviving. This can be really useful if things like your Wraith form are down and you have no way to find cover, especially with Reaper that's such a close range hero. You will put yourself in dangerous situations all the time. And you can just keep this in mind. It can be another escape route or defensive ability if used the right way.
Additionally, if you're playing Reaper, you can also make sure that all of your shots are used before using your Wraith form, or at least as much as you can, because every time you're going to use your Wraith form to phase out, you get a slight speed boost to move around. It will always reload your clip. And this is a change that happened quite a few patches ago, but it's also just good to know in general. And when you're firing, you're also going to be getting a small percentage back of your health for every round that you're dealing damage with. So it makes you extremely durable to play Reaper at any rank, even without having a healer directly on you.
That's right. You want to take the next one?
I think that's it for Reaper. So let's go to Soldier. So for Soldier, you can use the Helix rocket as a rocket jump, like we mentioned, but you cannot dash and Helix rocket your feet and jump at the same time. So a lot of people like to rebind the shift key to run and hold. So if you hold the shift key or you hold your run button down, the second you let go, that means you're stopping the run. So a lot of pros, a lot of people that I've talked to like that kind of a key. So it makes it the rocket jump of the Helix rocket easier. And then when we had Jake on, we made sure that he made sure to make sure that we knew about the Helix rocket making the trajectory of your enemies more predictable by shooting it at their feet and thus popping them up in the air a little bit so that you can more easily hit those headshots. And it still does the full damage if you're hitting them in the feet. Just make sure you're not hitting them only the splash damage.
Yeah, that's a really good tip for Soldier. Like, always aim at the feet with the rocket. Not only it increases your chances of hitting the target, even if it's just with the splash damage, but also it throws them up in the air, like you said, making their trajectory very predictable, so you're able to just hit him free, basically, for a brief period of time.
Right. And the last thing on Soldier that I'll mention is that when you are using your clip similar to Reaper, or when you're using your ultimate with when you're using your ultimate with McCree, your Soldier ultimate will actually just reload. So if you use all your ammo, you're just about ready to reload, and then you pop your tactical visor, it will actually just give you a full clip ready to go when you tap the animation on your head to turn the visor on. You have a full new clip for the ultimate.
Cool. Let's go to Sombra. I have one for Sombra. Sombra is all about that poke. With Sombra, you want to abuse your translocator as much as possible, and you want to become a backline nuisance. You want to set your translocator in a place that is safe, maybe close to a health pack where you know the enemy team is not going to be coming nearby anytime, and engage through the backline. The key to Sombra engagement is don't overcommit. The second that they see you, they will turn around and they will kill you. You are quite vulnerable except for your translocator. That is your ace of spades right there. And if used right, you can build your ultimate in no time. Just a couple of pushes where you're able to get a bunch of fire into their backline or in the back of their tanks. Plus, the healing from the health packs will build your ultimate so fast. And that's when you do a hard engage with Sombra. Either let your team know that you're ready to engage, but that is when you truly do the jump. Before that, you're basically trying to build your ultimate as fast as possible.
Definitely know who to hack, because some of those targets are really good. Diva and Tracer and Doomfist are some of the best targets to hack.
Hackaroony
And remember, you also are getting a damage buff to your own weapon if you hack anybody. So a lot of times, if you hack somebody that's just out of position, even if it's not that beneficial, like hacking a Zenyatta, for example, the hack will give you a huge damage increase. All right. Next up, we have Tracer. Now, this one is a little bit unintuitive because we had Faulty Lid Gaming talking about this one a while back. But when you're throwing the pulse bomb, it has a very slight up and over arc, kind of like a little layup, I guess you could say. But if you aim your crosshair down a little bit and then throw it, it will go not directly where your crosshairs are, but it'll go up and then down to where they are. So if you're trying to hit somebody really, really in a mid-range area, but you have a large target and you want to hit them in the stomach rather than kind of lobbing it, you can kind of apply it to go straight into them a little bit more instead of waiting for the arc to complete. You can throw it straight by, predicting the arc. And the other thing you can do is that you can throw the bomb at the bottom or on the ground inside of a graviton instead of on a target. Because what happens is the bomb doesn't stick to anybody and does more damage and more splash damage inside of the graviton, dealing more damage to the group. So you're going to see a lot of professional teams and big level tracers in graviton surges throwing it on the ground because of this. And
yeah, sometimes just by the way sometimes by the way the game works, if you stick it to somebody in a graviton, there's a big chance that if the person is behind the part where you stuck the graviton, the bomb might get blocked. So instead of dealing the damage to everyone, you might only deal the damage to like a segment of the graviton. Instead, if you throw it at the feet, you almost always guarantee that the damage will be spread among everyone, basically guaranteeing that triple kill or sometimes 5 kills. If you get lucky, get all 6.
Yep, and then you're definitely going to make sure you abuse the map areas so that you can get to high grounds just from using your blink. There's a really great high ground on defense if you're playing on Anubis, especially. You can get onto that left bar of scaffolding with Tracer by hopping on a couple boxes and the bricks, and then getting up to a certain point where you jump and then double blink, and you can land on this area and kind of scout the enemies. It's really, really great. And then it also lets you turn to your right, and you can get on the 2 high ground little rings around the pillars, and you can kind of maneuver that way. It's really, really great.
That's right.
What about Bastion?
All right. With Bastion, we have one that was brought to our attention by Color Bastion. He mastered the trick of interweaving healing while he attacked in tank form. He understood that you have enough time between your shots to sneak in your healing, because your healing doesn't share like the same cooldown as your attacks. It's not like you can kind of like animation cancel in quotation marks in between. So you can fire a shot, heal, and then fire the next shot with literally no downtime. If you practice it the right way, you will be basically healing between every shot and also firing at the same speed that you would normally, basically giving you a ton of health and mitigating things like if you're using the rockets to elevate yourself, or you're using them to jump to boost yourself off the ground, you will heal back a little bit of health, making you a lot more durable doing this ultimate.
And the last thing that I'll actually just add here is that when you are trying to duel somebody on Bastion, in certain circumstances, it may be okay for you just to quickly swap to your sentry mode or your turret mode, because you're getting a big ironclad buff with the passive. When you enter that form, you lose mobility for the gain of some armor. So if you feel like you're in an area where you just need to give a little bit more durability to your kit, you can do that. Andres, why don't you take the Hanzo one too?
Cool. With Hanzo, a trick for his ultimate. If you can find really weird angles that are blocked by walls, where enemies are not expecting you to come from, you can fire your ultimate through these walls and get a bunch of surprise kills. One of the biggest downsides of the ultimate is that it's very big and slow moving, and it's very hard to miss, honestly. A flying dragon coming at you is usually a bad sign, and most people will just get out of the way out of that. But if you're able to find a wall where enemies are not going to be expecting you to come at all, you can use that wall to fire through it and guaranteed kills. Especially if you are using your sonic arrow to scout where the enemy is, you can really, really catch them off guard with it. Also, watch out for Genjis. Your ultimate can be deflected if you didn't know this. Right before or right after you fire it, it's still just an arrow. It takes like half a second for the ultimate to explode. But during this time, when the ultimate is still in arrow form, it can be deflected. And I've seen it before in matches where Genji's just like jump in front of the Hanzo right before he ults, deflect the arrow into his head, get a headshot, and then the ultimate just explodes and kills his enemy team behind him. So watch out for that.
I've also seen Hanzos use their ultimate as a zoning tool, especially in Hollywood. I've seen this a ton, where if you get 1 or 2 picks at the start of a match or start of an engagement, and you have the payload really far back and you still want to push it, they'll fire the ultimate, because it continues indefinitely. So even if you're firing it from wherever you are in the map, it will continue until it hits the edge of the kill box of the map or whatever. But you can fire it at the enemy spawn, so that when they spawn, they literally can't leave, and if they try to leave, they'll die again. I know that I've seen Raxu do this. I've seen our special guest Arage was doing this on one of his streams that I was watching. So it's really, really good heads up zoning technique. But let's get into Junkrat. So Junkrat has the new kit where you have the double exploding mines. You can create a double jump or a triple jump, depending on if you're waiting on the cooldown after you place a mob. This will allow you to jump over extremely high sections, especially on the far right or the far left of being on attack for Eichenwald, as well as other locations on Anubis. And it's a really great thing to get back from spawn to a certain location. I see PvP do this all the time. And in addition, you can do the similar thing to Far Out, where you can jump after you place the mine. You want to see where the mine is, walk over the mine, jump in front of the mine, and then detonate it. And you'll get that much even more in your air to lob on top of somebody. Also, if you combine the mine with literally any other part of Junkrat's kit, which is a regular fire of just the grenades or a trap, the mine plus that will kill anything that has 250 health, always. So if you're looking to finish somebody off, you can just throw the mine and get a fadeaway C4 charge detonation. Just do that. Mm-hmm. And also, if you're in a situation against specifically Winston's, where they will try to contest you and you're in a tough spot, you have your tire, it's totally fine to start the windup of the tire, because the Winstons cannot burst it fast enough. You can just start the windup of the tire, detonate the tire, you will not die, and the Winston's dead. Especially if they're not able to escape. This is really, really good heads up kill. And there was one more thing that PvP was mentioning to me about Junkrat, was that you can fire certain things in a way where when you jump up in the air with the mine and you fire a couple rounds, like higher, and then as you get higher in your trajectory, you start tilting your gun down further. You can get 2 of the shots to land in the same spot at the same time, even though they're fired at different times, based off of how the trajectory and the gravity in the game works.
Cool. Pretty cool tips. We are running a little bit short in time here. We have a lot of more tips to give you guys. We might have to squeeze this into 2 separate episodes, because we don't want to rush it through, or just make this 2 hours of us just spitting tips over at you, even though a lot of these are super, super useful. But also let us know what you think of this episode. We've had so many going deeps, and we have so many little gems of knowledge that sometimes they're not super obvious. I know the longer you've been playing the game, the more you pick up on all of these. But even Rob and I that have seen so many guests and stuff come in here, we learn stuff every day. So we want to make this more of a compilation for you guys to be able to digest all these a little bit easier. So let us know what you guys think of these quick fire tips. We're going to do one more over here with May, and then probably close it out. And then all the other ones we'll bring it to you guys next episode, or in a few episodes from now. Maybe we'll find a way to include just a few of them on episodes here and there, just like a quick fire, kind of little thing. Let us know. But yeah, the May, we're going to close off with May. There's a couple tips with May. Number one is, if you didn't know this, you can change the positioning of the wall between horizontal or vertical. This is a very basic tip, but if you're not a May player, this might not be obvious to you. And it really changes the way that you can position walls depending on where you are. Also, a little more advanced tip. When you're freezing somebody, when you're doing your little spray, your right click on somebody, you only have to hold it, or left click, sorry. You only have to hold it for about 1 second, I believe, or 0.8 seconds. I can't remember the exact time, but here's the thing. When you're firing your mist, it has a travel time. So you can technically stop holding it before your target is fully frozen. And by the time the rest of the mist arrives, it'll be fully frozen. And during this time, you can start right-clicking into the head and basically be able to squeeze in 2 headshots rather than 1 headshot. It does require a little bit of practice, but once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to squeeze in a double damage, basically, doing a total of over 300 damage to any of your victims. It can be a great way to destroy Saryas or Roadhogs or Winstons that are a little pesky. So it's a good thing to practice if you like May. Also, during your ultimate, if you are spraying your left click, you will freeze him a lot faster. And when I say a lot faster, I mean almost instantly fast. So if there's a priority target that you definitely want to catch in your ultimate, a great way to guarantee the freeze is if you target your left click at them during the ultimate.
I'm not sure if it has to do with the number of seconds for the endothermic blaster, but from what I was looking at here, it looks like it says the target will be frozen after taking 30 hits, which means The ammo is at 20. So if you've expended 30 of your ammo and every single one of those pieces of the static drain of 30 hits the target in your tracking, then they will get the frozen tag. And that's why if you're using the endothermic blaster alongside of the blizzard, they're going to be doubling the speed in which you can get them, because they're taking 30 hits of the blizzard plus the endothermic blaster. Andres, what do you think about grabbing 2 more of these so that we complete the offense and the defense tree, and then we only have support and tanks left?
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. I also want to get to one of our iTunes reviews. We got a really awesome review this time, so let's fire away with the tips.
Okay, so the last 2, we have Widowmaker and Torbjorn. Torbjorn says that there's not a whole lot of things for you to learn with Torbjorn because you have a turret, so just use that. No, I'm just kidding. Torbjorn, you can use his hammer while you're using your ultimate for both an increase in his damage as well as it basically being stronger than your traditional melee. And the only reason that we recommend trying this is that when D.Va has her Matrix sitting in your face and trying to zone you out, you can just walk up to her and hammer the snot out of her while she's trying to Matrix it, because she can't Matrix a hammer. And on top of that, you still deal damage through barriers that Reinhardt will put up. So you can just melee his barrier and it will deal him the damage. Also, I wanted to put this in as not necessarily a tip, but just something when you're playing Torbjorn to be aware of. Don't spam the shotgun shots. It is meant to be very, very close range hits. And when you're just trying to finish somebody off and you need to use the spray and they're really, really low. Primary fire, while kind of an odd arc trajectory, is extremely powerful if you're hitting those headshots. And it is something you're going to want to definitely spam and weave into your rounds, especially during ultimate form.
Cool.
Andres, you want to cover Widow?
Yeah.
And then
the last one we're going to do is Widowmaker. I have a little tip that has saved my life a couple of times and has also allowed me to get a couple of clutch kills. This one is what I called fake falling. And it's when you pretend like you're going to jump off of a cliff or off of the high ground that you're on, or off of a building. But as you're falling, after a slight delay, you use your grappling hook to quickly get you back up there. And this results in almost like a bait. If it's a Genji or a Hanzo or somebody who's chasing you, a lot of the times they will want to chase you to finish you off, and they will jump after you, allowing you to kind of like dodge them for a second and get another shot on them, or be able to run to your heels, or even get a shot on some other target that you're trying to get the pick on before they get the pick on you. It's worked several times for me, and you feel like a G when you make it happen, because not only you fool the enemy, you also get the kill on them afterwards. Also,
and if you hold spacebar or you hold jump when you're using grappling hook, you actually fly past where the grapple location is. So you can like launch yourself into space.
And that is kind of like the second point of it. You can use the grappling hook to quickly create space between an enemy and you. And kind of like you said, you can use spacebar to increase this gap even further. If you're able to kind of like juke your target and then use your grappling hook and use spacebar, you can sometimes jump really, really far, creating a huge distance, enough for you to actually take aim and be able to get that headshot on them. Or even if you don't juke him, you can just use the grappling hook to create distance between like a Winston and you, for example. If you fire it like at your feet, just a little bit further away from you, it's a great way to get away.
Absolutely, and that's going to do it for the offense and defense heroes tips and tricks guide for you this week. We're going to try to see what the feedback is on this episode, so feel free to jump into Discord. You can jump over there at discord.me/OmnicLab. You can type that into your browser and not into Discord because it won't work. But I think that's going to be it for the show. We have 4 iTunes reviews, and we're going to read one of them because he showed up to the game night and I told him we would. But first of all, we have Toothless One from Canada, leaving us a 5-star iTunes review alongside of his friends Anonymous Dragon 221134 in USA and Jeff 618, I believe, also in USA, but I forgot to check. And Saracen in the US writes, 71 episodes, 2 weeks, TLDR, listen now. Hey, my in-game name is Kid Apostrophe, and I'm the guy who listened to every episode available at the time, 71, in 2 weeks. What is wrong with you?
Big fan, big fan.
Big fan. That's crazy. And the first thing out of my mouth before I finished the review, I asked him, how do you remember anything? There's so much information dumped on in 71 episodes that I understand enjoying it, but man, that's a lot of straight fire to listen to.
Maybe he's like an information devouring beast or something. He just needs it.
Photographic memory. Unbelievable. But he says, thank goodness I'm allowed to use my headphones at work. Rob and Andres have a really great chemistry as hosts, bringing different perspectives and flavors for each to the show. Each episode is engaging and jam-packed with more information than you would expect, to the point of having to increase the episode length to an hour and a half each. Thank you guys so much for gracing us mere mortals with your vocal presence for even longer. The show's level of professionalism and inclusion is astounding. Not only do they have numerous guests on the pro scene, but they also have console-centered episodes and use the voice actor of Sombra made a truly joyous appearance. I can honestly say that I was able to understand the terminology and discussions in a few podcast episodes I listened to before purchasing Overwatch. So he did most of this without even playing the game. That's insane.
That's awesome.
That fact alone is incredibly refreshing. Though, if you got more Overwatch experience under your belt, many of the topics discussed go way over my head. Lastly, I did join the Discord in most recent game night, but wasn't expecting such an inviting community. Rob greeted me as soon as I joined the Discord and even got to coach my game night team. Oh, got to be a coach on my game night team. Yeah. So grab a cupcake, steal someone's beef, and attempt to learn some Japanese with Senpai, not Rob. Download every episode and binge this glorious podcast, or at least go deep on a hero you enjoy. Wikiface Kit. Kit, thanks so much for the glowing review. Yeah, that was really fun to read.
Yeah, thank you so much, man. Glad that you have been enjoying the show. Glad that you got to listen to all 71 episodes. Actually, it would be interesting to talk to you because you probably have a better perspective on how we sound than even Rob and I do after listening to all of those back to back.
Probably. Yeah. So, man, we don't really read reviews that often, but this one was just so feel goody, I guess you could say. So really big thanks to you. And I'm not saying that the other guys weren't feel goody, because they definitely were. It's just, man, there's so many good reviews and we got to pick one every once in a while. But thank you to each and every one that leaves iTunes reviews. If you want to leave one, it's actually the best possible way to support the show for free is just go on iTunes and pump us an iTunes review and leave it there. It doesn't even matter if it's low stars. It just lets people know what you think, gives us some feedback. We read it. We read every review. And in addition to that, it helps our search results and people find us. So it's great. Andres, why don't you go through the Patreon this week?
Yeah, special thanks to all of our diamond sponsors: Ben W, Good Apollo, Lysum, Magic, Michael Kritz, Not Muad'Dib, RC Crispy, Ricky Tiki, Sketchy Nonsense Podcast, Tragic Sack, and Trinium. And also welcome to our new patrons this week, to Chris the Playa, Diamond Boys. We got another Diamond patron over here. Thank you so much, Chris, for the support. And we also got Cohen D joining the squad. Thank you guys. You guys keep the lights on at the lab. You guys help us keep the upgrades coming. Things like BlizzCon being able to happen. Also a few upgrades that we're trying to do so we can create an awesome host from BlizzCon for you guys. So yeah, keep it up. We're always very grateful over here for all the help.
We're definitely really excited that we got a new couple of patrons because of the BlizzCon stuff. Andres and I were talking just yesterday about getting some investment items for BlizzCon so that we can get some more things. So we are utilizing the insane support that we are getting to help further the show and make things happen. Especially getting to BlizzCon from Japan is not an easy task in the slightest. So if you guys want to support us, please head over to patreon.com/OmnicLab and support the show today. There are perks for you and giveaways and all of that sort of thing at the patron levels. I think that's going to do it for their episode number 73, Heroes, Tips, and Tricks, and talk about the Overwatch Contenders Season 1. If you guys want to find the show, the best way to find it is to go onto the website, which is omniclab.com, and you can go to the /links page to see any of the other links you're looking for: Twitter, Facebook, Patreon, our Twitch page, our YouTube page, and our merch page. That's right, we got merch. You can get t-shirts, you can get hoodies, you can get coffee mugs, all the sweet goodies there. And as mentioned before, we have a Discord community and our email also labeled up on the website. You can find Andres, why don't we talk about you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, if you want to personally find me, you can look me up on Twitter at iPlayGames. You can find my music blog over at soundcloud.com/iPlayMusic. And you can also find my podcasting ventures over at audioblender.studio.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter and at the tag NotRob, as well as on Instagram, where I will most likely be posting some of the things that are going on our BlizzCon excursion. If you guys like Hearthstone, you can head over to Velen's Chosen. We just released a brand new episode talking about Zoo, talked the lore about Grommash Hellscream, and we talked about 0 mana cards in Hearthstone, and are they good or are they bad? More of just a discussion. If you guys like just stuff that I do, I also have a Concept Craft podcast I'm looking to update as soon as I can. After tax season here in Japan for me, I've got basically 6 days from today to finish that up. So after that happens, I will most definitely be able to roll out a couple more of these podcasts for you. And at this point, Andres is going to play a clip from Con Before the Storm, which both of us will be participating in, me on the Hearthstone panel and Andres on the other panel for Overwatch. But if you're here for the live show, this is the point where we make sure that you guys go check it out on the website, because I'll drop the link in the live show. There you go. It's a really, really cool thing. It's going to be happening the day before BlizzCon. It's called Con Before the Storm, put on by World of Podcast. There will be 50 podcasters there, including Andres and myself. Thank you guys so much for joining number 73 of the Omnic Lab. We're really, really excited to go to BlizzCon, and we're actually even more excited that we have the next 3 weeks of shows planned. So we'll see you guys next week. Remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. Blazing Bob, Dano, Bodega Rat, Tikakura, Bio Shrimp as always, Bio. I've been trying to set up this camera. I want to do this zoom in for you, but I always forget. I have it in my other profile, and I can't change it while I'm live.
Just to get closer to it. Use your body. Insane.
I'll catch you later, guys. Thank you all for coming.
Peace.